Yo, 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 hello, and welcome to the 1218 Show. I have a guest this week. It's the 12th episode, and I finally got Johnny T here. I don't know...
Hey.
I've been looking forward to having him on for a long time. I know that I've mentioned him several times in several episodes, and I know you've been eagerly awaiting. He's had a busy week, and then he fell ill for a little bit and had to go see his folks, and one thing leads to another, but we finally, after all this time, got Johnny T to come on the show. Now, you wonder why am I so excited about this? I'll tell you because, well, Johnny T and I have known each other over 15 years, I guess?
No, I think about maybe 10, around 10.
Oh, 10?
Yeah, 10 or 11, I think.
Okay, all right.
I haven't been in the game 15 years yet.
Okay,
so
all right. So it's
long enough. Long enough that we can abuse each other on the podcast and laugh about it.
We met approximately 10 years ago doing stand-up.
At the strip.
At the comic strip. He was not a Hamburger Harry's guy, but the same lady that run the Hamburger Harry's guy runs the one at the comic strip. So we met there. There was a little crew of us the gang, Rob and Matt and Calloway, quite a few of us that kind of ran together, did a lot of stuff together, and Johnny T was one of them. And we're about the same age, and over time our friendship has lasted, and we've become great. And Johnny T has quite a story, and he is, as I've said many times, you guys are going to love him because he's crazy, and he's got all these crazy things that he's done and does. And his story
One man's insanity, Mike, is another man's, average day. But crazy it is. And this is 100% organic insanity. There's no antidepressants, no medication whatsoever. Very rarely take an aspirin. So this is organic insanity.
And as you can see where we're going. But yes, no, we've had a lot of good times, and he has his own web series. He's been pulled off of YouTube permanently.
Facebook, Instagram.
He was banned from all of them. He was actually banned from the comic strip once, which we'll talk about that maybe. The point is, there's nothing that you can't talk about with Johnny T where he doesn't have an alternate point of view, that he won't argue another side with you. If you see it one way, even if it's the way he sees, he'll give you the other argument just because he likes that kind of debate, enjoys making sure that all the information and everything is there, and it always stems for some very interesting, very fun.
Why? Because I'm willing to listen to an opposing point of view, right?
That's right. I mean, that's what
we're buddies, but we think similarly.
Yeah.
You only learn from the opposite. All right, because I'm a little punk from Brooklyn, a little Italian boy from Brooklyn. So I would never grow up as a radical liberal. However, if I wanted to balance out, I would have to listen. We forgot how to listen.
So
we're gonna listen to each other, and we'll see where it goes.
That's right. So Johnny T and I started in comedy at
the strip,
at the comic strip. Well, he started. I was already in for a little bit prior, but he started coming to the strip. You had not done stand up prior to that?
No, I had done no stand up.
Okay.
I lived in LA for a short while, and I would go to the Comedy Store. I always had an affinity for it, and I thought, yeah, I could do that, but it wasn't something that I ever thought about doing. I was screenwriting at the time, but when I moved back to New York, I don't know, for some reason, it provoked me to write for a comedian, Brian Holtzman, which is a great comedian in LA. If you could think about your big, angry Jewish father with a lot of rage, very funny guy. At the store, so I would send him routines. I don't think he used any because I was just starting to write comedy, but very cool guy. He would always get me on the list when I would go out there. And when I came back here, I had a friend who was a childhood friend who was an actor, and they say when your acting career stalls, you should do stand up because you're more of a character, and the casting agents, they're not exactly the most creative. They could see, oh, he's a certain type, I could use him. So he had brought me up to the strip. And he's like, well, why don't you get up, man? And I got up, and I just took off. And that was it. So that's how I got my start.
Nice.
And now this is the 6th anniversary of my childhood friend. Give him a shout out. Can I give him a shout out?
Yeah, please do.
This is the 6th anniversary that he actually overdosed. Very sad. I got to call his mother when I get off the podcast. But just to honor Dino, because we grew up in Brooklyn, and I was just very artistic from the start, at the outset. And he thanked me. He goes, you know what, Johnny, you inspired me to get into comedy because we were just like punks from the street of Brooklyn, and you were always artistic, making films and stuff like that. And it's weird how the circle got closed because he brought me to comedy. I would never have thought to come to comedy.
Right.
But it's just strange how, he thanked me, and then I really have to thank him, and I do thank him. But today's the 27th. He had an accidental overdose, and that's because our government is letting the that's why they're keeping the borders open to let the fentanyl come over the border. With the illegal aliens that Joe Biden puts on, private planes at night and then flies them all over, secretly. I don't know, but hey.
All right.
Well, opening on a downer, nothing like opening on death of a good childhood friend.
Yeah, no.
But much love to you, Dino. But we'll go.
Yeah.
We'll go on.
Gosh, no, that's great. I hadn't heard that.
That's my comedy story. That's how I got into comedy.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, I did not know that. And that I might have mixed guys here. That's not the same guy you were writing for in L.A.
No, Brian Holtzman.
Okay. Okay.
Great comedian, really great comedian, one of a kind out there.
Okay.
And they would always put him at the end at the store because he was just had a dominating energy and presence.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
It's weird how sometimes you're doing things before, like for like 15 years, I wrote anonymously for the New York Post as the unknown waiter. Page 6?
Yeah.
Richard Johnson. So, when I was a screenwriter, you're struggling, like, oh, when's it going to happen? I want to see words to print. So, I had what's that, Orange Hair? She was Scorsese's movie. De Niro, King of New York.
Mm-hmm.
What's it, the comedian? Sandra? Oh, she was... Bernhardt.
Okay.
So she came into the Stage Deli once, and she held a pickle. So I had a friend who was a paparazzi. He was working there, but he wanted to be an aspiring paparazzi. I'm like, you should send that into the Post. That's hilarious, because she's a lesbian holding a pickle. They could play off of that. He was too shy, so I sent it in, and bang, they printed it. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'll send in stories. But then I would just invent stories, as if you ever search the unknown waiter, for like 15 years. So, but the jokes had to be really short. The stories had to be short. So I didn't even realize I was joke writing, to get the punch in quick,
right,
just to get my stories in.
Right.
And little did I know, years down the road, I was already had a good, ability to write jokes because I was writing them in for the New York Post unpaid. So when Trump yells out fake news, or if you read anything for like 15 to 17 years, Page 6, I would get the headlines, all this shit. Totally made up stories because legally it's he said, she said. Like they would call up, like say Mike Wilson was in with Meryl Streep, at Balthazar, and they were downstairs in the bathroom making love and kissing, and they would call your publicist up. Hey Mike, was Mike there with Meryl Streep? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. And was he fooling around with her in the bathroom? Oh no. So legally, they're covered. It's just he said,
right,
she said. And they don't give a shit. But Richard Johnson was like, don't worry, Johnny, when you break, you got all the publicity you want. Unfortunately, my career is arcing so slow that Richard Johnson has retired. So I have no pull-up Page 6.
That's funny. So yeah, that's interesting. I sent in a story to Reader's Digest last year, and they called me like 4 months later. I had almost forgotten about it. And asked if I would if they could publish it, and I was like, yeah, heck yeah. And then they said, okay, they needed to confirm the story, confirm who I was, blah blah. And so I was like, cool. And I said, yeah, it should be in I want to say it was October, it might have been November issue of the print issue of Reader's Digest. And if you make the print issue, they pay you.
Nice.
So about 3 or 4 weeks later, I got a check in the mail for $100. For this little short story that I wrote.
That's it. You're officially a writer.
It never showed up. It was never printed. So they paid me. I
guess the editor then they...
I guess the final cut. They didn't.
Yeah, but let me tell you something, Mike.
But it's annoying.
They paid you?
Yeah.
It was good enough. It was.
Yeah,
Listen to me.
it's
It was
legit.
good.
It was a professional writing. Yeah. So officially, yeah. But I was so annoyed because I was like, in the next episode, next issue, came out. And and I flipped through, I read every page, and I'm like, I can't believe, I don't understand. They paid me, I got it, it's there, like the story's there, they confirmed, all the stuff. And then it didn't make the print, so I waited, I was like, well, maybe it'll be in the next one. And I checked for the next 2, never showed up. But I got paid for it, the check cleared. And the crazy thing was, in that episode, in that issue, the first one that I thought it was going to be in, there was another short story in there by another Mike Wilson. So I always kind of wonder, like, maybe they just mixed up Mike Wilson's
And
paid the wrong one or something.
the
This
wrong
guy,
story.
yeah,
Right.
something. So I don't know what happened, but I was really, really sad because, like, when she confirmed with me, she sent me the story and said, "This is our edited version," which they didn't edit anything. Maybe fixed a comma or something. But it was the exact story that I had sent in, and so I confirmed it, and all the things.
I mean, it's
what
like
the
it's just,
steps?
it's good. It's validation for you as a writer to start, but at the same time, you still want to.
Yeah, I wanted to frame it. I mean,
because that's why I was when you're struggling as any artist, you're struggling. That's why I would constantly like invent stories to send into page 6 because you're sitting there on this screenwriting. I mean, it's like impossible. So I'd be there struggling with my own work, and then and then I would get stories where, like, I had friends across the country, and they were aware that for years. And they'll be like, "Oh, that has to be John," and they call me up. "Is that you?" I was like, "Yeah, that's me."
Yeah.
So it's validation. You get to check.
well, I see you in there. I mean, when De Blasio was in office, you got how many times were you published in when De Blasio was in? You were saying because you always do bitch slapping De Blasio or something.
Well, I would use
but you actually used your name then. It was Johnny's.
because I would send all my De Blasio bitch slappings to and it was so easy to letters. Comedy is easy if there's truth there.
Yeah.
If you get the truth, everybody's going to respond to that. They don't care, if you're left, you're right, wherever you are. And De Blasio was such a loser that it was like pitching comedic, softballs. But I would send it into letters of the editor, and it would always be like boom, boom, boom. I mean, I was amazing.
I saw your name.
Your post has been good to me in every way, but financially.
This reminds me of a story. So talking about Johnny T and his stories. Okay, we're going to go back to this. I want to know your story as to how you ended up here because I know you worked on Wall Street for a minute.
Right.
Okay, we're going to talk about all that. But so currently, Johnny T is a jack of many trades. He does many things to create a buck and stay afloat, do his thing, and be able to have the freedom to write and do comedy. Well, a few summers ago, this maybe 4 years ago. You can correct me if I'm wrong. That jackass Jimmy Kimmel does his annual show in Brooklyn.
Yeah, once a week.
No, once a year.
Once a year. Yeah,
Once a year.
right.
He does a week.
He does a week once
show.
a year.
Yeah, in Brooklyn. So on one particular episode that he was doing, he wanted to hire a bunch of pedicabs. And that's one of Johnny T's many jobs. So in the summer times, especially, or high tourist season, he'll even travel, go to DC, whatever. Whenever there's money to be made, he'll jump on.
Human mule. I like to say, Mike, I haul ass while hauling ass.
He jumps. He's on the pedicab. So it's early in the morning. He's on his way to his call time at the Jimmy Kimmel show. Pedaling along, and out of a church, I believe.
No, out of the gym. On working hours, 9 to 5, every day of the week, right? He would go to Blasio. He grew up in Park Slope. He lived in Park Slope, and he would go to the YA. This is when God puts you in the right place. So I'm pedicabbing from my apartment in Red Hook to Jimmy Kimmel. He hired us to carry his cameraman for a boardwalk shot. So I'm going up 9th Street past the YMCA. And the lazy bastard that guy is. He was living at Gracie Mansion. He would have them, right, during working hours, take a detail from Gracie Mansion all the way down the FDR Drive, over the Brooklyn Bridge, back to Park Slope, back to where he used to work out when he was Mr. Nobody. And what, do you ever see that fluffy bastard? What could he possibly be doing? 20 minutes on the treadmill, right? And then he would go to a pastry shop after there. Totally dick New York City. Anyway, God's like, we gotta put. So as I'm passing by, I see there's a looks like a suit, like a detective by the. I go, oh, that must be De Blasio security detail. Not that I was gonna stop, but just as I was passing by, the door opens and De Blasio walks out. I'm like, oh dear Lord Jesus, you are too good to me. So they started walking up, and I'm getting my. Go ahead.
Johnny T is never one to pass up an opportunity.
Well, there might be other episodes because I currently hold a Secret Service record when Hillary was. We'll get to this another time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Talking about not passing opportunities. Wore a blue dress. She's marching in the Columbus Day Parade while she's campaigning. And long story short, the Secret Service wanted to stop me. And I mooned her, but we'll handle that another time. So there's no way, if I have a Secret Service record for mooning Hillary, there's no way I'm going to give DeBozo not the business. So I'm pulling out my cell phone. I gotta get the
He's
video
riding
ready.
along, sees de Blasio, and within 10 seconds has his cell phone out and starts the video. And from that moment on, berated this guy as he walked down the street. Just
Comedically berated him, but there was a little berating. But the funny thing was, naturally they iced my YouTube channel because of my political opinion. But if you go on Odyssey.com, it mirrored my YouTube channel before they took it down. You look up 2 Johnny T is my channel, or this video on de Blasio is actually called Dicking de Blasio. So if you
cool. I'm gonna find that.
Yeah, because then you could link it, and
Yeah.
you could go to if you go to Google 2 Johnny T Odyssey Dicking de Blasio. Anyway. Well, I'm giving him the business, and you got to see how ridiculous it is. I wear a propeller top cap. I was going to wear it for your show. Maybe if we do another, and a SpongeBob shirt on a pedicab that has a sign that says on the back says "Lesbians on board, please." But his whole security, walking like a mope, just taking my abuse. He's walking like that, like this, like this, and his security detail is laughing behind his back because they know he's a total. I was telling him
Because he's literally, whatever the current events were, which I don't remember now, he's like, hey, Mayor, what about this, that, and the other? What about this? What about that? And just killing it with point after point after point.
Well, at the time he was putting on, the birth certificates he was going to approve for the city that you could pick X as your gender.
Oh, okay.
And going, if you want to, if you're looking at it in the future, what they want to do now is in order to control the drone society, they want to give robots equal legal authority, like how corporations for decades now have been given personhood. In the courts, they're treated as a person, and they want to do the same thing with robots because eventually AI is going to be running our asses.
Yeah.
So people aren't going to take too kindly to robots running our asses, but they know that. So if we were going to go to court, they want to give them the same recognition as corporations, as people, as personhood. So in order to get the machines up to humans, you got to get the humans. You got to take the humanity down for humans. And one of the ways you do this is you start fucking around with gender. Like, gender doesn't matter. You could be nothing because also know who's nothing. The
Robots.
AI robots that are going to be
Right.
controlling our asses.
Right.
So I hit him to that, but he's such a. These guys are all puppets. He probably is just signing this shit and like whatever.
Well, for those of you who don't know, that aren't, so they're listening like in my hometown or anywhere else that aren't New Yorkers, de Blasio was the mayor for 8 years. Probably the most hated and worst mayor ever. He's up there, top 3 for sure. And he was also known for, his wife is a big stoner. And so so this guy has to walk and take Johnny T's shit for probably 2 blocks, and then he breaks right into
Parking lot to get the.
Okay, so he had to take off. So when it was basically when he broke off and Johnny T couldn't follow him anymore, he went in and Johnny T is still in the middle of a rant. I mean, he doesn't miss a beat. Still. He goes, oh, where are you going? You gonna go take a nap or you just gonna go smoke a Big J?
I got to give that up to Curtis Sliwa, who has his own radio program here in New York. Who he actually put that on the radio, because he established the Guardian Angels, and he's like Mr. New Yorker. If you think I'm a New Yorker, and he actually put that on the radio waves. I didn't know. They go with him and his wife sit on the porch at night. That's why they built a higher fence around Gracie Mansion, so nobody could see him smoking the weed. And I was like, thanks a lot, Mayor. Sometimes you just get, when you improv, you get just the right line for doing absolutely nothing for the city.
Right.
And but
I was dying. I showed that video because he posted it at the time on Facebook.
Right.
I bet I showed it to 30 people. I mean, I had so much fun with that video.
I've had good coincidences. Another one was I was driving down Central Park West, just had my pedicab inspections happen in Central Park, and who's walking along, crossing the street beside me? George Stephanopoulos.
Oh, yeah?
Who, he was built in the Clinton White House. He was an intern. Well, he was more than an intern.
He used to walk by Coastal once in a while because he'd go to Agata, the store right there on the corner,
Oh, yeah?
really famously.
So I had offered him a ride, very politely. And when you see me, you don't think I'm the maniac I am, because my pedicab's, very cheerful, SpongeBob shirt, propeller top cap. I'm like, hey, George, how about a free ride? He's like, oh, no, thank you very much. And sometimes it doesn't click in my head. as a holder of a Secret Service record, you realize George Stephanopoulos in the Clinton White House supported all their insanity. I won't say he supported Hillary's cannibalism of little children on Epstein Island, but he has supported that. So I was like, so as he walked on again, I thought, oh my God, this is George Stephanopoulos. So I'm fumbling for the my cell phone again to do it. So he had turned the corner. This is like maybe 78th and Central Park West, and since I had given him a pleasant, we had a pleasant moment.
Exchange, yeah.
He was open to me approaching him again. So when I rolled up to him, and this is another one you could find on, it's called Ambushing George Stephanopoulos on my Odyssey. And I roll up, George, I'm like, hey, could I ask you just one more question? He's like, yeah. I was like, do you think Hillary or Obama will be hanging for treason? He was like, humana, humana, humana. And he just smiled. Very pleasant guy, I got to say, very pleasant guy. He continued to walk, and I continued to give him the business. And that's, so I had a couple of very good street ambushes of political bozos here in the city.
I saw Bill. God, what was it, 6-7 years ago now? I was going to the Billy Joel concert, and when you're walking up to the garden, they have the outdoor staircases to go up, and of course, I'm sure he was sitting in a private box or whatever. But we were going into the concert, and we were actually. As we were walking by, we were actually going to meet somewhere before we went into the concert. So it was a good 40 minutes prior to the show. So the masses weren't there yet. And I happened to look up, and Bill Clinton was walking up the stairs with them. And I was like, dude, that's Bill Clinton. That's crazy. Like,
walking up the stairs? You think he came in through the back entrance?
Well, he was going up the
spiral, yeah. The escalator thing.
Yeah. But it was him and like...
little entourage?
Yeah. And they were just walking up there.
Can I slide in a quick Billy Joel story?
Yeah.
So it's like Billy Joel at his peak, I guess, in the 80s, I'm in high school, I go with two buddies. And back then, before things got really tight and politically correct, you could sneak down from we had nosebleed seats, and we stuck all the way down to the front of the stage. And you're a high school kid, just stoned and shit like that. So we were there, and you would rush the stage and pull shit like that. And the roadies would take you and they'd throw you off. So when the lights would go out, that's when you would rush the stage. So I think it was me and a buddy, but there were other guys, you didn't know, along the whole side of the stage. And when the lights went out, boom, we went all up, we all went up, but I happened to go under the piano. So what happened is and it's like a tradition, they don't give a shit, this is rock and roll. This is when rock and roll, when the cock still was in the rock.
Right.
And so they, take everybody, they toss them off the front. But the thing is, you never wanted to do, pro tip, if you're into this, rushing stages, you never want to get thrown off the back of the stage, because they won't allow you back into the concert. They just take you out of the venue, and you go out. They take you out through, where talent would go out. So what happened was, because it happened when the lights were out, I was under the piano. So when the lights went back up and Billy went into the other song, I'm still under the piano. So
was it covered? Like, could the crowd see you?
Yeah, everybody could see me. Like, you could see me, like the roadies in the back. Everybody backstage could see me underneath. Everybody in the front could see me underneath. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, what am I going to do? No, wait, this is the best yet. Like, you're down there, like, what am I going to do? I go, should I just, what do they call that? Swamp mosh pit? What do you do that when you crowd surf? Should I just throw myself into the front of the crowd? Because I don't want to get thrown out. I mean, I love Billy Joel.
Right.
So I'm sitting
under his piano.
So then when I'm under his piano, naturally, I don't even know whether I was on mushrooms, I was stoned. He's playing. He went into the other song, and he's working the pedals, with his feet. So I'm looking at Billy Joel's feet, and he has sneakers on. I'm like, oh. So I reach over and I untie one of his shoelaces. And then he starts going like this. Then he realizes there's somebody underneath. So I could imagine him up there. He's probably going to the roadies in the back, and he's like, get this guy out. And while he's doing that, his other foot, he's like trying to kick me away because I'm trying to get his other shoelace. So then I look out towards the back, and I see there's a fucking triumphant of roadies, like 3 guys coming, and they look like, they're like fucking the Giants, what's his name from Lawrence Taylor and shit like that. It looks like they're just gonna rush me. So I just toss myself out back into the front, and I mean that's how it cool. They let me go, but to show you how. That's a video I was going to do, untying Billy Joel's shoelaces. But
that's a story.
Yeah, because he was trying to kick me away with his other foot. But yeah, I mean, I'm wacky. But imagine if I was really fucking crazy, like I want a souvenir, and I just rip his sneaker off.
Dude, I would have loved if you to tie them together. Like tied the sneakers together. That'll trick me. Untie them, tie them together.
No. Or Jerry Seinfeld years down the road, he has me on Comedians in Car. He's like, Johnny, he goes, why are you hanging? I got this car for you. No, Vet. If I had to be on Comedians in Car, I love The 63 Vet is my favorite, with
Yeah,
the Stingray in 72. He goes, why are you hanging these sneakers? These aren't baby sneakers. I go, well, actually, Jerry, these are the sneakers I pulled off Billy Joel's feet. I didn't have the money for a t-shirt, so I figured, why don't I just take his sneakers?
And you didn't get thrown out of the concert.
But you know how cool it was? My uncle's so older, who so you see Zeppelin in like 75 at the Garden and stuff like that. And what would actually go on, like the people in the nosebleed seats, like the red seats all the way up, you know what they would do during concerts? They would take Blockbusters or M80s or Cherry Bombs, and they would throw them over the people towards the front of the stage, over the people in the really orchestra seats. But naturally, they would arch them so that, boom, they would go off over their heads. And the band played on.
No,
could you imagine if they do that today? I mean, that's how wild that is.
Yeah.
I think even Zeppelin would be like, you know what, we're done. We're off stage.
Yeah, they'd be too scared by, with all the shootings and shit. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
wow.
Shit has changed.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm actually okay with the not throwing M80s over the crowd, but
yeah, I mean,
for the most part, I hate all the new shit, but I'm okay with people not throwing firecrackers at me. Right. That's funnier than shit, though. There used to be this people lived like two floors below me at my old apartment, and sometimes they would have these ridiculous wild parties, and it would piss me off. And then even more so, they would get in these, him and his girl would get in these screaming fights, like blood-curdling, like screaming fights. And so I used to drop M80s out my window, right, so they would pop right in front of them.
break the fight.
Yeah. It's so stupid, but I remember I was telling my buddy Todd about that, and he was like, "There's so much wrong with the story. I don't even have a comment for it." That's what it is. God, that's a great story, the Billy Joel one. Wow, I hadn't heard that one. All right, so I want to talk. Okay, so where did you go to college?
I started in Brooklyn College.
Okay.
I was always.
Oh, that's right. Let's go all the way back. So you're born and bred in Brooklyn.
I'm born and bred in Brooklyn,
and you're Italian.
And I'm Italian. I was born with like a movie camera in my hand.
Right.
So
here's something that's interesting. So I didn't know. Growing up, I grew up in Illinois, and heritage and background and all that stuff never meant shit to me. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, but just mutt.
Yeah, everybody. Boys. Yeah, we were just. We have no so heritage. I didn't know. And I remember one of my girlfriends. She was Italian, and her father always brought up, Italian stuff and whatever. Mm-hmm. And then one of my best friends, Greek, and his mother always celebrated Greek Easter, and they had some Greek traditions. And then I obviously knew several Irish folks, and St. Patty's Day was a thing. And my grandmother always, talked about St. Patty's Day, and but it never meant anything. And then when I moved to New York, everybody, what are you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? What am I? I mean, I'd be like. And they're like, well, what are you? And I'm like, I don't understand the question. And they're like, well, what are you? You Italian? You Irish? You whatever? I was like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm a mutt. I'm everything.
Yeah, mix.
Yeah, I'm Dutch. I'm Irish. I'm German. I'm English. I'm everything. I'm just American. And they're like, well, and I'd be like, I'd be a smart ass and be like, well, I'm white. And be like, well, yeah, no fucking shit. Like, but what are you? And I'm like, I don't know. Why does it matter? And then I didn't realize, it took me a few months, and then I realized that
it's very ethnic.
Yeah, it's a big deal out here. Yeah. And it's so weird, because I would say probably most of the flyover states, nobody gives a fuck.
No, because my girlfriend's in Kentucky, in the flyover states, everybody's, let's face it, I don't want to offend anybody, they're kind of white. They're white. And if you're white, you're white. Like, and it's like, it was, the middle of the country was initially, this country was like initially German. Even like during World War I, we didn't even really pick a side, because it was predominantly German farmers and stuff like that. So wherever you go, Ohio or Kansas, everybody's like white.
Yeah.
It's like,
I grew up. I knew some of my best friends were black. I knew a lot of white people. I knew a few Asian folks. I knew one Jewish person. Didn't even know what Jewish meant. I just thought it was a religion. I had no idea that it was also considered a race.
You didn't realize that they
no idea.
Hollywood, I remember, the media, and banking.
And I didn't realize either. I mean, I remember thinking it was so weird when, like, Christmas time would run around, and she'd be like, yeah, we don't get Christmas presents. We don't celebrate. And I was like, I don't understand that. How, it just didn't make sense. I didn't even know that Christmas and Christianity had to do with religion. Like, I was so ignorant to, like, what all that shit meant until I lived in a big city. And it was actually fun to learn it all. But I didn't. But I could not believe how much it mattered in New York. Oh, if you're
Because
Russian,
everybody has a turf.
yeah, that's right. It meant a lot of it helped people
Chinese,
understand.
you got to go down below canal.
Well, it just helped people understand who you were. Like
Right.
if you said, "Oh yeah, I'm Italian." Oh, okay. Then you knew kind of what you were dealing with.
Yeah,
I
where they were
guess.
going to come from.
Yeah. And that was just not a thing where we
Right.
grew up. I didn't, I mean, literally there was I knew like the
know,
only
so
Indian folks in our town. It's changed now because a lot of the tech people that work for the big State Farm and all those companies are Indian, and so there's this massive Indian population there now. But when I grew up, like the only real Indian family in town was my pediatrician and his family. And I'm sure there were some others, but the only ones I knew of because of school. So it's very, very small Indian population, very, very small Asian population, and then it was black and white and Mexicans. There was a few Mexicans, and then that was it. It was probably 85% white, maybe 10% black, and then 5% of just everything. And even then, it didn't matter. Like, we didn't care. We grew up just not giving a shit. Like, oh, yeah, that's like this Asian kid we went to grade school with. His name was Sheen. And, oh, yeah, that's Sheen. Like, it never even occurred to us, like, oh, he's actually
Asian,
from
or he could
the
be
other
Chinese.
side of the world. He's a Japanese kid. He's
Right.
kind of,
Well, I mean,
and
that's
it
the
was
way
just so
that's the way it
fucking-
should be.
That's the way it should be, right?
But because you're all kind of, like New York, it's so, like if you're Irish, right? Well, how it used to be, like say, I guess from before the '80s, when if you're Irish, it was Hell's Kitchen, right? Up there.
Right.
Italian, then you were like, I guess, near Spanish Harlem or Little Italy or Brooklyn. But it was, I can remember, like, I grew up like in, like my father was like kind of that. Let me get into the camera frame. It's just not a podcast. That Oscar. Archie Bunkie generation,
Right.
when New York was like that, but everybody was cool like that. Like, say if we wanted Chinese food, he's like, well, why don't we get Chinks tonight? And you would say Chinks, and it would be no big deal. Even
Right.
if our neighbor was Syrian, they were from Syria at that, they would say Chinks. Or if it was Sunday and I don't know we were working on a car or something, you needed a piece of hardware. He's like, well, we'll go. Everything's closed Sunday, in an Italian neighborhood or an Irish neighborhood. He's like, oh, we'll go to Jewtown.
Right.
Which was Borough Park in Brooklyn, because that's where the conservative Jews or the Hasidic were there.
Right.
And listen to me, everybody, even today in private, everybody's doing that. But New York it was because the neighborhoods are so fractured or territorial.
Right.
You
You knew where you were going.
you
with
know,
it.
oh, Mike, you belong in this neighborhood, or you belong. It's just
Yeah.
it's just a New York thing.
Yeah, it was crazy. So it took me a long time to understand why everybody gave a fuck what I was, and I'm
Right.
like, I don't know. I mean, I was like, I come from. Finally, I was just like, I come from Illinois. And I don't know what I am. I'm just a mutt. And they
It's
were
crazy.
like, no, whatever. Like it was almost like if you didn't have some sort of tag put on you, like what? Like they didn't want nothing to do with you. It's like they couldn't learn anything more about you if they didn't know where you were coming from. And I'm like, man, I come from a farm town. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, trust me, the way we live is different. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, what I understand as normal is not this. So I don't know what to tell you. It's
That's why people come to New York City.
Yeah.
Not normal.
right. So, ironically, my hometown is named. It's called Normal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Normal, Illinois. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So anyway, all right. So you grew up Brooklyn,
Right.
Italian,
Right.
and so you go to Brooklyn Borough College first.
Went to Brooklyn College. I was like, I should have gone into filmmaking because I was always, how I do with the videos, this and that. But I didn't want to commit. I don't know what. There was a lot of things. But I'm saying, you know what? In college, 4 years. I said I should just go out to Hollywood and work my way up to director or whatever. But when you're 17, that's like a commitment. I'm like,
Yeah.
I could have 4 years of just hanging. I'm like, and I'm the first person in my family to go to college, So I was like, you know what? I'll just go to college. And you know what I'm going to do? That's how I wanted to be. I go, I know art. I was always, and I was always self-taught. So I'm like, I'm going to go to college for art. I go, I'll study accounting. Like, what are your three? This is actually how I thought. It was so fucked up. Like, what are your three professional degrees? Doctors, lawyers, accounting. But doctors and lawyers require more school. I'm not going to more school. I said, you know what? I'll just study accounting. I'll get a CPA. I'll pay off my loans.
You were like, you're. I mean, I don't know what the word is here. You're very streetwise and very like common sense oriented. But you also have that knack. You're also very book smart, right? Like you read something or whatever, you retain it. Like you could do numbers.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where I think even in the comedy scene, I have a good split. Whereas I have that edge because I grew up on the street. But at the same time, because not like now, the majority of white boys are at college and there's no edge. It's and they're continuing to feminize us. So
Right.
I think that's where I stood out in the comedy scene. Is like, well, he looks like a white boy, but he kind of has that punk edge. Because I was kind of the last generation in Brooklyn, or really before everybody was growing up on computers,
Yeah.
where you played on the street and you socialized, you learned how to live on the street, you learned how to stand up for yourself. Where if you're on, how it is, whether even in school, if you're on a football team or something like that, you got to stand up, or you're going to get smashed.
Yeah.
But I had to, my father was a smart guy, so school was no problem for me. So I said, fuck it, I'll just get that. I'll get the CPA. I'll work. I'll pay off my college loans, and then I just wanted to have enough money to backpack Europe and see the world. Because when you grow up in Brooklyn, it's very parochial in a way. Like I grew up in Dyker Heights, which is like sandwiched between Bensonhurst and Bay Ridge. Bay Ridge, Irish, where Irish guys get drunk on beer and beat their wives. Bensonhurst, where Italian guys get drunk on wine and beat up black guys. That's when Al Sharpton used to have the protests, because there was some Italian guys did something to some black guys, kids were walking through, and actually when he was protesting, one of them ran up like these wannabe gangsters, and they stabbed Al Sharpton. That's when Al Sharpton was fat and he had that hair. And listen to me, honestly, if they stabbed Al Sharpton because he was black, that was wrong. But if they stabbed Al Sharpton for being Al Sharpton, I really have no argument there. Because come on, he's a race, he's selling his own people down the river. But anyways, that's what I did. I wanted to see the world, because when you grow up in Brooklyn, I really grew up in a Saturday Night Fever, Goodfellas, with a mix of Irish. The Irish kind of balance it out. Manhattan seems like another country. You know what I mean? It's like that's another world.
Manhattan's, outside of like Hell's Kitchen and Harlem, everything else is kind of a melting pot. It's all transplants.
Exactly.
Everybody come from everywhere
all
else
over.
to be. Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to do. That's the only reason why I wound up. I got this, got the CPA, and then.
So you got your CPA, and then did you? So you didn't go to grad school though.
Well, I think what happened was I didn't. I learned there's one thing, like if you have a couple brain cells in school, you can study anything. I understood accounting. It's easy to pass a test, right? You spit this to me, I spit it back to you. Give me my A. Thank you. I'm gone. Right. But then once I got out, I got recruited. They recruit you from college, and I wound up at Deloitte, Big 8 at the time. Now there's Big 4, and they look like who they think is gonna,
So this was a Wall Street trading firm?
No, public accounting firm.
Public accounting.
Like Arthur, I think it was Ernst and Whitney. They do the Oscars. Deloitte.
Okay.
So they wanted to give me responsibility and put me over these like 30 first year. I'm like, no, because I couldn't get my brain down to it. So then eventually, like, listen, John, you need 2 years experience with a public accounting firm to get your CPA. We're going to let you finish the 2 years out, and then you're out of here. Because I just couldn't. I was just like, this shit is boring,
Right.
So then they wound up. I got, they were kind. They placed me at Goldman Sachs, and I'm like, And they had a great program, Goldman Sachs. You could go to any school you want, graduate program, we'll pay it. So I'm trying, I'm still kind of lost, and I'm like, I'm art. What should I do artistically? And maybe I was blocking myself. I didn't know. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a psychologist. So I got into NYU's grad program for clinical psychology. I was there, and you're doing the most boring shit. Like they're doing, I have to read things, elderly studies, like who's going to provide, elders their primary, I'm like, family, of course, we got to do a study on it. I said, you know what, I got to just drop out and go straight for the art, and that's what I did. And, I never looked back. It was just, so I went to grad school for 6 months at NYU. I transferred from Brooklyn College to Pace University.
Okay.
Which has a great accounting program, but I guess nationally it hasn't been known until Bradley Cooper graduated from their acting program years later.
Well,
otherwise, forget about Pace University.
Yeah.
Well, that's where James Lipton used to do.
The Inside the Actor Studio, right?
He did that at Pace University downtown, where I went to school.
Yeah.
Inside the Actor Studio.
Yeah, that's funny. Wow, they, because that was a good little series. I don't know.
That was great.
I was trying to find that. Like, I was trying to buy it on DVD or something. Like, I was never able to find it. I would love to be able to watch all of those, because those were some really good.
Great. That's when he had Chappelle on, and Chappelle said, I went to Africa because you know what? Why is Martin running around Hollywood naked, waving a gun in an intersection, saying they're trying to kill me? They're trying to kill me. He's like, maybe because Chappelle is like, maybe because Hollywood's like a little fucked up. Naturally, he couldn't say they're eating babies. Yeah, but Lipton was good. He had it was it was a unique format. That was a good show. It was a really good show.
Yeah, I do. I would like to see if I could do. I can't believe that they're hard to find. Like it's annoying because there's several of them were great. I mean, I remember the Al Pacino. I don't know. I've probably seen 10 or 12 of them. But how many have they done? Probably 50 or 60 of them, right?
Oh, there's got to be more. It's funny you say that. Hard to find because a show from you remember Beretta? Do you remember? What's his name now? I love that show. I mean, I was a little kid. Beretta. He had the cockatoo. He played the detective. Robert. And he killed his wife in Hollywood, and he said, he was at the Italian restaurant. Robert, he was in Cold Blood in the 60s. He really did. Robert,
We can look it up.
damn. Okay, play Beretta. But I was on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook, and they're like, oh, we could only find the first season on DVD. He was a little rascal, too. He was a little rascal.
Robert Blake?
Robert Blake. Yeah, Robert Blake. I love Robert Blake. He gets, and they say he didn't, he was found innocent. A lot of people believe he was. Now they did some kind of a documentary and they believe like he wasn't. But I mean, it's so suspicious. Like, oh, I got to go out. I got to go back to the restaurant. And then she, I don't know.
There's a few of those. Like, what was the one? What was the one where they dropped the chick off the boat?
Natalie Wood, Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Christopher Walken.
And Robert, what's his name? Robert Wagner.
Yeah.
And then there was all that crazy shit that was saying that she was shocked that they were perhaps. There was some fellatio going on when she came up on deck, and she was so shocked. I mean, these are all rumors, you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. But I guess in Hollywood, you could toss your wife overboard, and we're going to cover that shit up. Because you know what? The studio has a lot invested in Christopher Walken and Robert Wagner. We need this picture to go off.
My God. Yeah, that's one of the old Hollywood folk tales that I don't know. You ever wonder if like I feel like if I was a holder of secrets like that you're just like you're never going to admit it, right? Because you can't, because it's
no way.
Because it's just too. I mean, especially now with the retro world that we live in, you'll get punished 50 years later for some shit you did way back then. But like I think about that a lot of time with like Ray Lewis. That guy lives a lie every day about killing.
I know he's in football, but I really don't know.
He was the Baltimore Ravens guy that killed those kids. I don't know if he killed them, but he knows way more than he ever planned on to.
How did they die?
They got killed outside of a strip club or some shit. And I can't remember the whole story now. I'd have to look it up.
Well, it's a crazy one because my mother talking about she's addicted to the Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah.
So it winds up that Johnny Depp dated from what was that? She was Flash dancer. Oh, what's her name? She dated Matthew Broderick before Johnny Depp.
Before
it was like Netflix. It wasn't when it was
Sarah Jessica Parker. I mean, she's married.
It was her name is whatever it was. She kind of burnt out. Whatever it was, Jewish actress, young girl. She had kind of a nose. She was cute. She wasn't in like Footloose. She was in another kind of
Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing.
Jennifer Grey?
Jennifer Grey.
Yeah.
So after she broke up with, I feel bad for Matthew Broderick because because they just interviewed her yesterday. She's coming out with a book, so naturally she's commenting. After she broke up,
They were in Ferris Bueller's Day Off together.
That's it, exactly. Yeah. So after she dated Matthew Broderick, she went on to Johnny Depp, and she said like 2 days ago, because she's pushing her book, that was the first time I was ever in love. And I was like, oh, poor Matthew Broderick. But she went on to say that when she was dating, this is another one you forget these things, and she came out, and she was pretty honest about it, that when she was dating Matthew Broderick, they were in Ireland, and he was driving the car, and because he's an American, he wasn't used to being on the right side of the road. He was on the wrong side of the road. They had an accident, and they killed 2 people.
Oh.
And I remember that because they wanted to keep them in the country, and this is going back, I guess, to the late 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, and then she goes, it was very traumatic for me, and it's still I carried every day. But she was kind of honest. She wasn't like a normal, and she even recognized, the family in Ireland, like, it was traumatic for them too, because I think they were kind of youngish, the people they killed, maybe in their 20s or something like that. So yeah, like Ray Lewis not admitting, but she was nice. She kind of she put it out there.
Yeah.
She didn't have to bring it up.
Yeah, the Ray Lewis one's mind blowing because it's his clothes magically disappear. The first call he made was to the Ravens organization, so then his people come in and clean it all.
We got a Super Bowl to win.
And so I think about all that stuff, and I'm like, man, if I was the holder of some major secret like that, I feel like
away at you, right? You might get like a little cancer.
Unless I had like wife and kids that I needed to protect. So you just
Right.
take it to the grave with you.
Right.
But it would be really hard. Like when I'm diagnosed with whatever terminal ill or whatever, that last day I'm walking my ass to the mailbox and putting the story in there.
Dropping a couple letters to every
That's right.
newspaper.
And
Yeah.
like, here's the way it went, just so you know, and then walk away. Then I feel like the only reason that doesn't happen more often is because of loved ones. Like if you're married with children, it's like you don't want them to, you don't want your legacy to be ruined. I mean, I I've got plenty of people in my life that I care about, but I don't think any of them would be surprised if I held some crazy secrets and just revealed them on my last day of life.
Right.
I don't. Sometimes I wish I did, but but yeah, I would totally be like, oh fuck, here's the whole story. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to pay any fines, so I didn't tell anybody. But here's what it was that happened 55 years ago or whatever. That's I would totally do that.
It's always the loved ones, because if you're brave enough for yourself and be like, I'm going to drop the dime on this, but especially with the government, right? Well, you could drop the dime, but you know what? I mean, you want to watch a video of your kids and your wife.
Well, it's funny you say this because now. All
right. While Mike's doing that, you go on. I'm going to fill this glass up. You keep going back. I'm going to be right back. I'll be listening from the kitchen, Mike. Go ahead.
But I got booze if you want a scotch or a burn.
I see a little Jim Beam here.
Yeah, there's not much left in that, but drink that if you want. And then I'll get some couple glasses here.
I was going to say, something smells good in this apartment.
You can
because
riff.
a lot of things don't smell good in this apartment. No, but it actually smells. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's your laundry.
Oh, I have this little wax melter thing here.
I just want to make sure that light's so bright. I don't know if I'm in the frame or I'm out of the frame. If I'm in the frame or I'm out of the frame.
You like tequila or scotch?
No, that's one thing. The only tequila I could ever drink was Patron. I'm not really I can't drink that. Shit.
You like your scotch neat or on the rocks?
I'll take it neat because I'm not going to drink that much. Keep me. It'll slow me down.
Oh man. So
because the last podcast I got on, and my girlfriend was like, "Don't."
You keep coming out of frame here. You gotta slide over.
Yeah, that's what I was
bit.
just checking that.
Yeah.
No homo. No homo. I got drunk. I don't want to get that drunk again.
You're finished off that bird.
Although they have Mark Norman and Sam Morril. I'm gonna do it. Since they're so little, I'm gonna do it Keith Richards. Out of the bottle.
Yeah, it's just a shot anyway. Yeah.
Let me tell you the time I came home to Angie and I found Mick and David Bowie sucking each other's cocks. And you know who gave that up? Angie gave that up.
Oh yeah.
I read Keith's biography, and I think Angie had some. That's a great song. Could you play Angie on the guitar? And now a musical interlude with Mike Wilson playing Angie by the Rolling Stones.
I would if that thing had some strings on. Those strings are like 40
yeah, wow, that's pretty good.
I did.
I haven't
that's
had booze
just
in a while.
Yeah, this is.
Really
I don't drink. I don't drink much anymore, hardly at all, really.
Right.
And then
For
if
a
I
bartender,
do,
that's great. Well, here to the podcast.
Yeah, cheers.
Here to go on Rogan. Much faster than
sure.
Rogan went Rogan. Right? It's 9 years for Rogan.
We'll see. If I could get
He's a machine,
1%, if I could get 1% of the following that Rogan ever had, I'd be considering myself a success. I mean, that dude is. I mean, what a. I didn't even know.
What did he get? 20 million for that podcast?
50.
I wonder how much he's worth. Oh, my phone's not on. Could you?
Yeah, we can Google it.
Go
Yeah.
now. Go into got Siri. Just go. How much is Joe Rogan worth?
Oh, I don't
A
have
whole
Siri.
lot more than you two broke ass motherfuckers.
Yeah, no shit. How much is Joe Rogan? Let's see. How much is Joe Rogan worth? Joe Rogan's net worth is roughly 100 million.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I mean, he's not, Elon Musk.
But he had a lot. Can I tell you something about Elon Musk? I like this podcast.
Did you consider his piano too?
You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish.
He was working on a car, and suddenly I was in the passenger seat, untying his shoes.
You know when all right, so there's this, I'm going to give you there's this, for conspiracy guys, there's this thing, DARPA, which is your Defense Advanced Research, blah, 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 blah. Taxpayers fund them. We put our tax dollars there, they come out with all crazy shit, like, oh, look, we got a cell phone, there you go, or this and that. And with the DOD, Department of Defense. But what a lot of shit is that they come up with such great shit. What are we going to give it up to a private company and they're going to run? So there's this theory that's been floated out there that Zuckerberg, who can't write a line of fucking programming, but he has Facebook, Bezos and Musk are all frontmen. And they come from families that, old families, like you and I, like we said, we're slobs, we're regular American people.
Wait, but not Bill Gates?
Bill Gates, too. Bill Gates is a theory out there that he's not, he's not Bill Gates' father ran Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
All right, you understand?
Oh, yeah.
So they're in the game. Like, to give you just the listeners to give a quick if you come in, if you're say you're new money like Bloomberg, he invented the Bloomberg News Service,
Yeah.
or Bill Gates, supposedly new money. So now you got to realize.
Well, so's Musk, right?
Musk.
Yeah.
So now you got to say, hey, there's people that have been running the game for generations. Like say an Italian family has a restaurant for 2 or 3 generations. When your kids come into, if we were born into that family, you're going to have a business sense. This is how the world works. We know taxes. We know how to cheat taxes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You might want to, hey, go to be a doctor. I came in, all my parents said, you know what? My father was an electrician for the police department. My mother didn't have to work until she was divorced. Because back then, that was America, Mike. You could have a one-family income household. Owned a house in Brooklyn, 2 cars, pool in the backyard, pool table in the basement. We went to private school with my ex-wife when I owned my restaurant, right? Organic restaurant. Oh, they all came in. William Hurt, who just dropped dead, right? Love my ex-wife, but would never say anything. Wouldn't even say hi to me every time I walked into the store.
Really?
Yeah, Gabriel Byrne, the other one, right? Very disrespectful. Some would say what special additives in their food. No, never did that anyway. So anyway, when Bloomberg or Gates sit at the table, they're like, listen, you can come to the game, but we're going to need you to do something. Bill, since you've done computers, you know what we think you would be really good at? Pushing vaccines to the world. Like, that makes no sense. And Bloomberg, you know what you're going to do? We want the guns out of people's hands, especially in America, because it's a problem. We got them out of the hands in New Zealand and Australia. That's why we locked their COVID asses down, and they can't do anything. But in America, it's a different story. People with guns, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, anyway, with Musk, I'm saying, Albert Einstein, I don't know if you know this, he had 7 of the same suits in his closet. So every day, he didn't have to waste any thought or mental energy on what he was going to wear. Now, I'm like a baby Einstein, because I'm going to tell you what I have. I only wear Calvin Klein black bikini briefs. Because then they all fit on the same pile. You don't have to fold the shit all a different way. I come in, I just put them on, I'm done. But Albert Einstein, he didn't want to waste any thought. Same shit every day, because he wants to be focused. Theory of relativity, I want to fuck Marilyn Monroe. I got to be focused for that shit, because I'm not the best looking genius. She might not want to sleep with me. Although she slept with a lot of Joe DiMaggio, Arthur Miller, not the best looking guys.
JFK.
So she had a heart. JFK was kind of a movie star. Anyway, Musk, when he went on Rogan, right? Now this is now he's way a bigger genius than Einstein, because he's sending rockets to the moon. He's doing electric cars. He's making tunnels underneath.
I don't know. You could say that he's more of a genius than Einstein.
Well, he's multidisciplined. Einstein was just strictly, what is astronomy or whatever, theory of relativity. Anyway, when he was on Rogan, what did he do? He kicked back, smoked a joint. When Johnny Depp in the news now, right? Broke up with Amber Heard. Elon Musk had a fling. Not even when they were first married, she cheated on Depp with Elon Musk. I just heard on today in the court. She asked the concierge in her building, he needs a parking space and access to the penthouse late at night. Like, why would you cheat? I mean, unless you're really.
So here's the thing about the Musk thing. I think it's interesting because when you talk about the Rogan, so that was such big news and all that stuff. If you actually watched it, like back then he was streaming all the shit on YouTube.
All right.
Musk did the Clinton I didn't inhale thing. He never said that, but if you watched it, he Hollywood smoked that joint.
Did he?
Yeah, it was so annoying because everybody's like, "Oh, he smoked the joint." I'm like, "No, he didn't." He took a draw on it, never inhaled it, and just blew it out. And it's like he did not smoke weed, and it was such big news. And I'm like, the only reason I would even know is because I smoked cigarettes for several years. But if you can watch on TV, you see it all the time, especially now with so many non-smoking people. When they have a smoking roll and they pull the draw, but then they just blow it right out. It never actually enters their lungs. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what Elon did with his weed thing on Rogan, which I just thought was hilarious because the stock tanked the next day. It got like 15%.
Yeah, you know what? They had a company being a stoner.
Yeah, and it's like
control the electric car.
Like, he didn't even smoke the fucking joint. Like he did not like.
Yeah, but see, it's an issue of credibility. At his level, you're sending rockets to the moon. We want you to be credible, dude.
I agree. I don't think he should have done it, but I think it's hilarious.
What's he doing in private?
All the people
doing ecstasies, banging Amber Heard. Fuck the rocket, just stop. Busy right now.
I just think it's funny that everybody was so on it because they heard it. I'm like, if you watched it, you'll know that he did not smoke weed. There was nothing about him pulling a draw off of that thing that entered his body. He didn't smoke an ounce of weed, not even an ounce. I don't even know drug talk.
A whiff.
Yeah, he didn't inhale 1 cent of that except for what was in the air. So it was really annoying because when all that news broke and everybody's like, Elon, and I'm like, first of all, I like that he's just like, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. On the other hand, I felt like there was a, when you're in that position of power and that many people depend on you,
Master of the universe,
you got to be a little more, responsible, I guess. But there was no irresponsibility outside of the image that he's.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what I like about our grandparents' generation. I mean, that's when they wanted to hold society at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to me, we're all humans. You want to smoke a joint, you want to suck a cock, whatever the fuck you want to do it. But we have no responsibility, I feel, to the children anymore. We're just putting all the freakiness out there, and it's like sending, that adage, sending a rocket to the moon.
Yeah.
If you're off by a degree here, by the time you get to the moon, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I feel that
it's like shooting. If you're shooting long range, right?
My conservative Italian Goomba upbringing, with respect to society, you know what? Government is really the father of society. Your citizens are your responsibility. So you could say, hey, you know what I don't like about them now? Every state is legalizing gambling, legalizing pot. Alcohol's been legalized, right? For decades now. Pretty much the only difference between the government now and the mafia is that the gangsters wear better suits.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? You got a responsibility. Hey, drink, get stoned. You want to be a girl, you want to be a boy, whatever the fuck you want to do. It's just so fucking out of control.
Well, it kind of goes back
to
what
behind closed doors.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier. Like, they are just trying to make everybody dumber and less productive so that they can control more.
Right? Because
I don't know. Again, that goes into conspiracy theories. But
what? I don't really care if I don't know if I'm a boy, I'm having problems. Am I a boy? Am I a girl? I don't know what to do. And then you know what? If you don't even know who the fuck you are, do you know how much easier it is for your government to fuck you? And that's really what's everybody. And listen to me. I believe everybody should be able to live exactly how they want, as long as you don't impede on anybody.
I agree.
You want to change your sex? That's fine. Yeah. But what the government is doing, it's because everybody thinks, oh, white, black, gay. This is no. The real, what you want to say, threat is not the black man against the white man or the gay man against the straight man. It's classism.
I was going to say they want to eliminate the middle class.
They want you to look left and right because it's coming. The threat to us, to our transgendered brothers and sisters, or Jewish, or Italian, or Irish, it's up from above. And they take certain segments, because people are absolute morons.
Yeah.
They're run by their emotions. That's why every election, it's abortion, or it's gay, this or that, because it's emotional. It doesn't matter if they're fucking everybody economically. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you eliminate, when the world and government and everything was more trustworthy back in, let's say, the 50s, 60s, whatever, the middle class was huge.
Got to do Mike's podcast. Can we interrupt?
And it's
Glenn Levitt, 12 years old. That's what you do when you're a comedian who's also a bartender. Thank you very much. But go ahead. The middle class is huge. Sorry to interrupt.
The middle class was huge, so it had all the power. And as it's dwindled down, it's going to continue to dwindle because they're just eliminating. So it's going to be, all the money's going to be controlled by the top, 10%.
Right.
The middle class is going to be, a 10 to 15%, and then everybody else is going to be dependent on government of some sort.
I came for the podcast, but I stayed for the scotch.
But
it's bad news.
And then and so with nobody wanting to work anymore, nobody wanting to hold down jobs, nobody. And you know what's funny? Ah, man.
Me? As a comedian?
Yeah.
No, what's that?
I was thinking about this recently. So one of the things that I think is crazy, like my father retired really young. He was lucky enough to fall in this little window of, you can retire now, or as we restructure the retirement program, you can work like another 18 years to get the same package.
Right.
So he was like, well, shit, I only wanted to work 8 or 9 more years.
What did he do?
He was in construction.
Nice.
So he was a union guy. He was already retired by the time he was my age. Like he was...
Well, sure, I have friends at cops that, when they went on the job at like 20,
right, they're
bang, 40, like, that one of the favorite actors, Dennis Farina from Chicago, the guy with white hair,
Yeah, of course.
You know, what's my favorite movie is Midnight
Get
Run.
Shorty. Oh, Midnight Run. Yeah.
Serrano's got the tapes.
Yeah.
He didn't die too long ago. I think within the past year. But he was a cop. He was a Chicago
Well,
cop.
that's how he got.
No, you
the
retire when you're 40. You know, when you're fucking 15, 40, you might as well bury that guy.
Yeah.
But when you're 40, you're like, fuck, man.
Yeah, that'd be
Dick's
nice.
still working. Got a pension. I'm gonna go to Hollywood.
Yeah, no shit, 100%. So, but I think what's interesting is that as all these unions have kind of gone awry, and all these companies, these big companies, they used to put together these amazing benefits packages. And so our parents, a lot of our parents, our baby boomer parents, were set themselves up, and so when they retired comfortably. They had money. Their house was probably paid off. They had plenty of money. They were able to travel. They put their kids through college, or at least helped. They were able to pay for a wedding, like that. You know, those kinds of things. And that's not the case anymore. And part of it is, as all of these companies, like people, when once in a while some fund or whatever would go belly up, and they'd be like, but my retirement was there, like Bernie Madoff or whatever.
Right.
And then they say, well, I don't trust you guys to handle my money. I want to handle my own money. And so benefits started dissipating. Like companies were like, all right, you don't want, you do your own retirement. But the fact is, people spend what they make. They don't put money away. They don't retire. Like if you were smart, you would live on half of what you bring home and invest the other half.
Yeah, automatically, bang, put half in the bank and have to eat macaroni.
If you were like super smart. Most people say put 10%,
right.
20% would be great. But if you really understood how it all worked, and you knocked out and you lived on half of what you brought home and locked the other half away, put it in diversified investments and had a whole portfolio, you'd be set up for life by the time you were 45, and you would be, and by the time you were 50 or 60, you would be a multi-millionaire and be done. You don't even have to have a great paying job. You could work a union job or but if you lived like that and just lived broke for that first 10 to 15 years of your life and not spend everything, not go out and take a car loan and do all this dumb shit, you could be so set up. And people
free of this miserable system.
Right, and then so all these companies are like, all right, you guys want to take care of your own money? Now your own money. Well, now all these people are retiring, and they're like, well, my fucking pension sucks, and I'm never going to be able to retire, or this or that. And it's like, but you guys wanted to control your own money. We had it all set up for you. You chose for us not to do that. You didn't want that benefit package. You guys voted on it. We took a vote. The union took a vote. You guys voted against it. So why are you mad at us now? Because you didn't, those kinds of things, it goes back to what you're saying, people are fucking stupid.
Right.
When people didn't realize how good it was, like, yeah, you are kind of struggling.
Great.
Yeah.
Our parents,
So if you're sitting there looking around and you're like,
family, one family income, and you can raise a family.
And if you think about this, so people, like, I remember just back at, let's say, in the 80s. So if you were making, let's say, $28,000 a year, and you were just let's say a basic office job somewhere, and your neighbors down the block, let's say they owned a restaurant, but they were clearing $50,000 a year.
Right.
So they had a few more things, maybe a nicer car, maybe a pool in the backyard, and all you did was look at them the whole time, and you're like, man, we're doing the wrong thing, man. There's got to be a better way. Blah 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 blah. Well, when you were 55 years old or 60 years old and you retire and you're able to do that, if they weren't socking the money away, that extra $20,000 that they were making, they should have been putting away as opposed to spending it, they're still running that restaurant, or their kids are still running that restaurant.
Sure.
And that's what people don't get. Like, they just see what's going on next door and keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
They just see what's going on, and they don't realize the mistakes that they're making because they just want to
keep up.
That's right.
Keep
and
up
it's
with
like,
the
if you take your money and you just take all, I mean, God, I talk like my nephews and stuff, and the young people in my life, I'm always like, man, you get these jobs, you have no idea how, if you just took most of all that money and just keep socking it away and putting it in different investments and ideas and things like that that money can generate money, and you can live off the generated money within 10 years if you I promise you don't need the new Jordans, you don't need and it's impossible to get that through people's head. People spend what they make.
I have a friend,
if you have it in front of them, they're going to spend it.
I have a friend, Sid. He was my dad's friend from the track. Dad retired to Florida, Calder racetrack. Anybody who was divorced, widow, or their wives were cool, they go to the racetrack. They were $2 bettors. Sid was a old Jewish guy from Ocean Parkway in Brooklyn. His kind of jobs, he was a shipping clerk, stuff like that, working the garment center. but he's 99 now. Will be 100 next month. He is a multi-millionaire. He pays for his, now he still lives independently, but he has 2 girls around the clock, and a shipping clerk. But it was from the generation like he could be. I guess he could be my great grandparent.
So depression era.
Everything was saved. Like when I was a kid, I can remember my grandparents. We would go out to a restaurant because my grandfather was a butcher. He had a butcher, Tom Tassilo Meats in Bay Ridge. So all these small shop owners were friendly. One guy was Ciro. He owned an Italian restaurant. So on special occasions and stuff like that, the family would go to the restaurant. But it was an occasion to go to a restaurant. Because you know what? You're putting your money away. You're saving it. But like now us, it's takeout, it's restaurant, it's Uber Eats. Everybody, it's like, you can't save like that.
Yeah, you can, but people don't.
And then the family is fractured because you know what? You weren't going to restaurants too because you know what? Your wife maybe didn't have to work. And they were cooking meals all the time, and it was important to have the family. It was important to have the family around the table, because strong families make strong countries.
Yeah.
So now we got to feminize the men, because if any men get through, we don't want them to be a threat to our establishment.
Right.
And if we can't feminize them, well, we'll just tell them they have to be women. We'll put estrogen in their bottles, their baby bottles, whatever we got to do to keep you people down. What a fucking hell this world is. I tell you, oh dear Lord, that if you don't have some kind of spiritual discipline, it is such a hell, this world.
That's funny. You were talking earlier, but we can get back just about...
Mayday, calling Jesus Christ.
people meaning... somebody sent me this thing earlier. Do you remember, it was like 6 or 7 years ago, Dr. Phil had that little tramp on that was...
she's just bought a house for $6 million. Cash me outside. Cash me outside.
That chick.
Now she's Barbie. She's a
She
rapper.
made like $52 million last year on OnlyFans.
Right?
I mean,
OnlyFans,
the bottom of the barrel
right.
of humanity.
Right.
Of
I got another
teenagers,
video for you to link up.
dirtbags. And like that's what people are celebrating now. My voice teacher, who I took voice lessons for probably 10 years, and this guy was
you rap good. Mike is a good rapper.
Well, he didn't teach me how to rap. He taught me how to sing.
Whatever,
like,
his voice.
Yeah, but he
Park.
this dude was he always said to me several lessons I learned from him, but one of them he said the word is celebrity. If you don't give them something to celebrate, you're never going to be a celebrity.
Right, you gotta have an angle.
And and I always remember that. But it really bums me out.
Because you feel you're selling out.
Celebrity now.
Like you're not right.
You know what I mean?
Because everybody has a cell phone. Everybody gets
this
time.
tramp literally is picking fights every day with her mother, beating up, stealing cars, doing shit. She gets on Dr. Phil. He gets her some. Gets her some play. Something that video
really
on
capitalized
YouTube. 14 million people watched it on YouTube, and then she starts an Only Me or whatever the hell you said it was called.
OnlyFans.
Thing, and she made $52 million last year.
When porn isn't enough to you, you go to OnlyFans so you can get really up close.
I mean, I feel the same way about like Cardi B, but even though Cardi B,
she's the same one,
same thing, except at least she's got a little bit of rap ability. I mean, if you like hip hop music,
listen to me. The people that control these industries, they're going to pick their.
Yeah.
Billy Joel once said something that was really, it was an interview I was reading, and they're like, "Hey, Billy, do you think like you're the world's best piano player or whatever it is?" He's like, "No," he goes, "I just really think very humble." He goes, "I just think I'm adequate in a very inadequate world. Like you don't have to have, and I think he's being very humble, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because he says maybe he sees himself to against a classical player, but look at her. She has no talent whatsoever." But the people say, hey, the people around, what the hell? We'll throw her up there for a while, and
see if it takes.
And then it gets really dark, and if she tanks or whatever, the people that run this industry, you think Michael Jackson? You don't think, come on. You don't think they're taking the money back? A lot of these people, we're gonna run. You're gonna make the money, and if you come from an average background, we don't know anything.
Yeah.
I'm an Italian boy from Brooklyn. You're a white boy from Ohio. Who knows where the fuck she's from? She speaks worse than an Italian boy from Brooklyn.
Well, it's funny because
the one
thing, the record industry, and I know a couple of record execs from my old job for so many years. They are angry at the independent world because they're not able to essentially take all the money anymore. I mean, one of the some of these artists now that have really broke in the last 10 years from MySpace originally, and then it's kind of moved into SoundCloud and what it is now. These guys, they're keeping all their own money, and people don't like it. Like these record execs are like, wait a minute, that should be run through us.
Right.
It's like, why are they on the top 40 station? It's like, well, because now it's not records sold, and it's not plays at a radio, it's streams.
Yeah.
I mean, the money comes in touring, but streams. If the more streams you have, it's like if you're not
podcast.
If we have, let's say tomorrow for some reason this goofy show that we're doing right now goes viral and we get 10, 20 million hits tomorrow.
Right.
Somebody's gonna be calling us up and saying we want to sponsor you guys do a show.
Sure, you guys
Right. All because people happen to like it.
And, in a way, technology.
And then they're gonna keep all the money. We're like, wait a minute. If you think it's that good, then we could just do another one.
Right.
And we'll just keep our money.
Right. Well, like Rogan, right? He didn't get 20 million for nothing.
Right. Yeah.
He's like you said, he's a good interviewer. He listens. He's cool. He's why Joe Rogan.
Well, by the way, like I said, we had a little conversation about Rogan before the podcast started. So when he says, like I said, we're
not just throwing this shit completely off the cuff. It's a little professionalism going beyond this laptop.
Yeah, we were talking about Rogan's format before we actually started.
He's a good listener.
And we talked about how Rogan
as opposed to Alex Jones, who's strictly a gatekeeper.
Are you a fan of Howard Stern?
You know what I don't like about Howard Stern? I liked him. I got a great Howard Stern story.
Okay, all right, good.
So anyway, and it's a calmer story. You know what I don't like about Howard Stern now? He has become what he built his career on, like a wealthy, obnoxious, entitled, kind of liberal radical now. Like if he could go back in time now, he would be taking the stuffing out of himself now. And I noticed this is going back 6 years ago when he had Lady Gaga, who that satanic sellout on the show. He gave her such a softball interview. I'm like, this guy is done. But you know what? When you reach, it's like Springsteen too. I used to be a real Springsteen fan from Nebraska back. A real artist, pure from the heart. And now he'll play a McDonald's. I gotta stay relevant. Oh, Obama. Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares? I mean, but to each his own. So anyway, going back to when I was in college, my friend hooked me up with this Filipino girl who was a lesbian. But she liked Italian boys. It made an exception. And long story short, I had my first threesome with her girlfriend who was dating. She was from Germany, dated a rock star, whatever. We would date. She was a fine art painter. That's like one of the hardest roads to hoe if you think acting or comedy is hard. So while she was doing that, she became a dominatrix down on Lexington Avenue. Not going to say any names. So like anything, she's like, hey, why don't you come, John? We'll go out for drinks after work. You come hang out. So I would hang out, and you would go. I would hang out. It was like in a brownstone, and they would be like, I'm not even going to say. Wise guys, mafiosos, like heavy hitters, politicos and stuff like that, who had such control in the outside world, but they had to come down and be humiliated by these women there. So we go out for a drink after work. She goes, John, and this is a true, this is an amazing story. She goes, do you know this, and don't mention the name because I know you know it because you're a sports guy. Do you know this sportscaster? He has a really bad toupee, and this is going back like maybe the late 80s, something like. I go, yeah. He came in for something so disgusting that this girl who's been in the business only for like maybe 20 years would do it, and he liked to be shat upon. And I had seen the box there. It was like a wooden box, had a big circular hole on top to sit on, and kind of like a U-shaped on the side so you could lay down and stick your head in there. And he came in over that year. He came in twice, and this is a nationally recognized, probably Hall of Fame of for sports broadcasters. I'm like, wow, that's some fucking wild shit. So naturally, I was in college. I would tell a friend, yeah, okay, Salito, okay, Johnny T, you're dating a lesbian, you had a threesome, and she's shitting all over this guy's fucking face. Yeah, okay, go smoke another joint. So now years go by. I leave Wall Street. I'm working at the Stage Deli. This sportscaster gets taken to court by numerous women because he was a really kinky and probably abusive guy, and they're suing him for sexual abuse or whatever it was. And this is so if I had cool customers, I would tell them the story because it was out in the news, like Johnny Depp now, or like OJ. It was really big. This is how big this story was. Mm-hmm. So what happens was one morning my friend calls me up, like 7 o'clock in the morning, and he goes, Johnny, you got to put Howard Stern on. He's talking about you and your story. And this is when Howard first started out. He was still relatively new, and he would do the news And are we going over?
No, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that we were still.
And he would, like, if he had something that he was interested in, he would riff on it for, like, whatever. So he's like, Howard, I was in the Stage Deli on 7th Avenue in Manhattan. I had this really cool waiter who told me this sportscaster would get shit upon and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. So at the time, the trial was probably going on for maybe like a month to 6 weeks. A week after Howard Stern puts this out nationally, his defense folds. They decide to settle.
Really?
Now, story goes out on Howard Stern, right? Lawyers become aware of it. They go into the office. And at this time, my story was already maybe 10 years old. 10 years ago, were you going to a dominatrix down on Lexington Avenue, having this girl shit all over your... Oh, God, I said the name, I think. Well, maybe you can strike that out. Strike that out. You don't want any legal repercussions on that. Allegedly. Let me put in this as the alleged story.
I'll put in a little bell on it.
Yeah. So, he
Wait,
goes,
what's our time? 22:44. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'll find it.
so, he goes,
I'm listening.
were they shitting on your face? And he's like, yeah. He goes, well, let me tell you something. You got a lot of money, you're a millionaire, we're a great defense team, but I don't know what kind of detectives they have. If they got this story from 10 years ago, they got every story on your freaky little ass, and we can't defend that. So what we suggest is that we fold right now. And they folded, and that's what I think that's what I think is when you go so far to one end, God or the universe says we have to balance. And imagine, I'm like a college kid. I'm going through this story, right? 10 years goes by, I'm telling it to customers who I think is cool, Then customer calls Howard. Howard puts it out there. Total karma. I think it's a total karma story. That's when Howard Stern was still rock and roll.
Yeah.
Now he does his show from, out the east end of Long Island, the Hamptons or wherever he is, with his, his girlfriend, and they're saving cats and dogs. I don't know.
Yeah, I never liked him. It's not that I don't like him. I can't stand the way he interviews.
Baba Booey.
He interrupts everyone constantly.
Because it's about Howard.
And I can't stand it. Like,
'Cause
he'll
it's about
ask
him.
somebody a question, they'll start a sentence, he'll finish it.
Right.
Or moving on to try to get, it just drives me nuts. And he's hugely famous, and he's funny. I mean, I get it. So I forced myself to listen to some of them. I don't hate the guy.
Right.
I think there's nothing to not like about him, except I stopped liking him. Like, I never liked the show because I couldn't stand that he was such an interrupter. I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't listen to him. He drove me nuts. But last year, or a year and a half ago, whatever it was, when he went on his rants about vaccines and all that shit, I was like, I'm 100% done with you now. I mean, what the fuck do you know? You're a fucking candy-ass, New Yorker that thinks that, the little old ladies over, you sound like an old lady on the Upper West Side. Like, shut the fuck up. You don't know anything about
like a Yenta. Yeah, I mean, he's a male Yenta.
And I was like, you know what, when he started going off on people, people's opinions, and if you don't want to get your vaccine, or if you don't wear your mask and all that stuff, and his opinions about that, I'm like, it's not your, I'm just not interested anymore, because it's like, if I
think that's one of the bad things about success. Hopefully we could get to that point where you have so much money and so much respect within, wherever you are. Like, say, Howard Stern or Springsteen. To me, he's a huge disappointment. They're both blue-collar guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where you have such a level of, like, this, the one nice thing about being, in a not exactly secure place in life, like, say, financially and stuff like that, is, like, it keeps you honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It keeps your opinion humble. Like when Howard Stern's like, well, let me tell you about vaccinations.
Right.
And Springsteen's like, hey, let me tell you who to vote for.
Right.
Like somebody, you grew up on the fucking beaches, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now you're like Obama,
Right.
and you're totally, my dad worked in a factory, and I got to play this guitar to escape it.
Right.
And now you're like the factory owner's kids.
Right.
They're both like the factory owner's kids. Like, yeah, we're going to Brown University.
Right.
Oh, the only time I see a black person is when my father takes me through Grand Central Station, and he stops to have his shoes shined.
Right.
And that's why when I go to Brown, I grow my head out in dreads to show I'm down with the black people who I really don't know, except when they're shining my father's shoes in Grand Central Station. I can't tell you the level of distaste I have for white people who grow their dreads out, because they come from that level of society. that they're the farthest away from black people. You know what I mean? Like guys, like, you know what I'm saying?
What about like the stoners though? I love those dudes that are just straight up stoners that have the big.
Oh yeah,
dreads.
no, I like that. I like the stoner dread mentality. I don't like the dread political. I'm down with the underclass.
Oh
mentality.
yeah, that's a whole different.
Because they're coming from a level of wealth where they don't even deal with minorities.
Yeah.
They go from some like piece of grass suburb in like wherever, Connecticut, to another piece of grass suburb called Harvard or wherever. You know what? And their feet never touch the ground. Then they move to Manhattan and they're cabbing all around.
Right.
They are so distanced from minorities. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we're down for Black Lives Matter, but they matter best when they're far away from our mansions. You know, it's a level of whatever, man. Just drink, folks. You're never gonna figure it out. I suggest be kind, and if that's not enough to other people, if the kindness doesn't give you a high, drink. Right? What are you gonna do? I don't know. I can't give any advice. My life's a mess.
Man, there's something you said a little bit ago that reminded me of another one of your stories that I feel like would be a good one to end on, and I can't remember which story it was.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean we're at an hour and 20 now, so
Yeah,
I figure
right.
that's a good.
Is that what you usually? Yeah, I guess that's enough.
No, I usually do about 15 to 20 minutes when I'm by myself.
Oh well, when you're by yourself.
Yeah, so this is your only second interview. My first interview was like an hour 40. So,
All right, so we're in the ballpark.
yeah, so, but I can't remember what the story was. But I want to.
Brought to you by Glenn Levitt. Not yet. One day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What's the story you wanted to end on?
Man, shit. That's a good question. It was about.
I think we'll save the story where the female pleasured herself with the canine.
Yeah, well, that's a
Another episode.
We don't want to.
It's a teaser. We'll just drop that. Just drop that one. That's one of my favorite songs by the Beatles. You know Bulldog? Hey Bulldog? When they start barking like a dog at the end.
Yeah. They do that at the end of Holiday Road too. Brian. I found out long ago. Who the hell sings that? It's not Brian Setzer. It's Anyway, at the end of the live version, they're
Mike, do we have to end this podcast on this story? Because once this ends, I have no life. I don't exist.
we don't have to. I'm trying to figure out what the.
Well, throw out a
story
hint.
was.
Maybe I'll.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. There was. There's so many. Let's see. We covered the. Yeah. All right. So I have several. I guess this isn't the story that I was thinking of, but I want to talk about it because it's another one of my favorites. So everybody, or maybe not. If not, you should look him up. But there's an artist.
Banksy?
Known as Banksy, and I love his work, and I've got a couple of his.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah, I've got a couple of his pieces hanging on my wall in here.
I like this
Johnny
one
T
right
can
here.
see. Yeah, this one's cool. The Charlie Brown one's cool.
That's Charlie Brown, Banksy?
Yeah, that's Charlie Brown.
Because the one over here where you have the guy, where it goes, what we do in life echoes in eternity. I'm like, wow. Yeah, that will make you think about what you're doing.
Yeah, but he's erasing eternity. Like that's the whole,
Right.
So Banksy's a street artist who is apparently a musician. Apparently they kind of know who he is now, but for a long time he was completely anonymous, and they finally kind of figured it out. I can't remember what band he plays with, but they kind of figured out that every time this band played in a specific place, he would. Banksy
go
would
up
show
on the
up.
street,
Yeah.
right.
So they were like, maybe it's one of those guys, and eventually somebody dropped his name, so they know who it is, but I can't remember who it is.
Right.
Anyway, I've got 3 or 4 more that I haven't hung yet that are stuck in the other room because I really enjoy his stuff. There's actually one on the west side there next to that pub called.
The Ear?
No, it was the one with the fire hydrant, right up the street from the Club New York or the Stand Up New York, 2 blocks up. What's the name of that?
Oh,
that
on
big
the
Irish
third
pub
end?
there.
The Irish pub? Yeah, I don't know. And like, Stand Up is like 3rd Avenue and 20.
then that's not
is
what
this
I'm
leading back to the video I did on the Banksy?
Yes. No. This is leading up to you spray painting.
Oh, Banksy's thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my. You have a lot of videos that hook up to this.
Yeah, that's So now I'm gonna butcher the story, and I'll let Johnny correct it when I finish. So Johnny T's riding his pedicab, and a new Banksy had popped up downtown New York, and
9/11. It was a 9/11 Banksy in Tribeca.
and so Johnny T, again, never wanted to miss an opportunity, and is a full believer that 9/11 was more of an inside job than we've been told. So he sees the Banksy. Now Johnny is also
Hang Dick Cheney.
a respecter of art so he would never.
Yeah, I would
destruct the
never. I would
Banksy.
never tag over anybody's
But
art.
people are starting to show up. They see the Banksy. They're taking pictures. They do whatever. Johnny T grabs a can of spray paint, and on the wall next to the Banksy draws a big arrow and says 9/11 inside job.
Yeah, but you're not.
So tell the whole story. I just
So anyway, my ex-girlfriend was a big Banksy fan. She's an English girl, so naturally Banksy is an Englishman. So she's like, "Oh my God, Banksy just put up this 9/11 over in Tribeca off of Hudson." I'm like, "Oh wow, I got to check that out." So she had one down early, and it was a silhouette of a skyscraper scene with the Trade Center towers. From the sidewalk level up. I'm like, "Oh man," and I don't know what's in my head because everybody I just. So naturally, Banksy, he has like groupies. So I go there and there's like, I go on my motorcycle and there's got to be like 30 people there. And it's not a normal street. It's like an alleyway, which is very narrow. It's probably no wider than, I don't know, 8 or 10 feet, So,
Dublin House. Okay, I did interrupt. Dublin House is the name of the pub, and this is probably the picture of the Banksy. Yeah, that's the Banksy.
oh, all right, yeah, I've never seen that
You've
one.
never seen that one?
No, I haven't seen that
Oh yeah, it's right there on.
Is it still there?
Yeah, but it's kind of tattered up now.
Right.
They put a piece of protective plastic over it, but people have
Yeah.
fucking pissed and shit on that, and
Yeah.
whatever. But it's right there on 79th and Broadway. You'll see it when you go over there. Okay, so
So
anyway,
everybody's there, they're taking photos and stuff like that. So I pull up on my motorcycle on the corner, I have a can of pink spray paint because the mural's done in black, but that's all I had at home for whatever reason. And I don't know, sometimes you have such a clear head. And I walk past them, and I go past the mural, and I start spray painting a line towards the mural, and now you get people like, "What the fuck you doing? What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, calm down. And then I just draw the arrow, and then I go back to the end of the arrow, and I'm like, inside job. And people are like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, listen to me, art is about truth, and the best way you could honor 9/11 is with the truth. And and they but the thing is, because I'm such a lunatic, and because now the situation with white boys, we've all gone to college, and you could tell like, oh, this guy might be this guy's crazy. So I'll send you a link to the video, but it's actually one of my best videos.
Yeah, I don't
But
think
it,
I've
it
seen
added, what it is, I would never tag, because everybody's art is their voice. And I don't like it when you tag over somebody's,
I
although
hate that.
graffiti artists, it's a different story, because everybody wants to be the man. But my piece added a different dimension. I left his piece, he's like, hey, whatever. I don't even know what he was whatever he was doing.
Right.
And I added, this is look, and then the thing was, it actually, and this is what I'm saying when things reverberate. Then the New York Post covered it. And the next day it was in the New York Post, and they said, and some man on a motorcycle came and said 9/11 is an inside job. So it was beautiful, because then now what my voice went into the Post, right?
Right.
And then everybody that's reading the Post, whether they agree with it or not, it's going out into the consciousness.
Right.
So never think you cannot take it from the unknown waiter who was published for 17 years in the New York Post. No matter what, everybody's a drop in the ocean, but even if you're a little drop in the ocean, when you hit that ocean, when you hit the water, you ripple out, and you ripple out, and just like Banksy says, what we do in life ripples out into eternity. So if you're cheating on your wife right now, make it the last time.
Jesus Christ. Oh, good Johnny T.
Heyo!
All right, so I don't want to. We've got a million videos and links that we could put into this. We're going to. I'm only
De Blasio, Banksy.
Yeah, I'm going to do De Blasio, Banksy, and then your Rumble video.
Which one?
Or your Rumble channel, I mean.
Well, my De Blasio. I think it's on.
Do you have a channel? Your only picture
all
of
right.
a channel is on Rumble, right?
My YouTube, which had 257 before they iced me, is now completely on Odyssey. So my Banksy is on the Odyssey. So when you view the Banksy, you'll have a link to my Odyssey, and you'll have a link to my whole work, my stand-up, and then what's the other one you wanted? De Blasio, wherever that is. I'll give a link
De
to
Blasio and Banksy. Yeah. So, all right. So, as you guys know, there's a guest page on the website. So, I'm going to obviously add Johnny T to the guest page on the website, and then on that, I'll link him his main one that he wants for everybody. If you need to see more of his stuff or are interested, and it's all worth watching, I promise. You can click on there and it'll take you wherever you need to go. And then in the YouTube channel as well, I'll put in the bio. I'll link a couple.
Well, there's Odyssey. If you
well, for my YouTube,
YouTube.
I can
Right.
put link. I can link
Okay.
up to his
All right,
stuff.
cool.
But yeah, so on the 1218 show YouTube, you'll be able to link up to where he is. But we want to. I want to get you. Johnny T has a such an amazing perspective and has quite an online presence. So
Well,
I mean,
had.
it's not. Yeah, well, yeah. It's it's nowhere near like the Kardashians, but it's
No.
it's he's got some.
No, I haven't slept with a black man yet to further my career.
And that's the.
But
New
I'm getting
Yorker.
close.
That's the New Yorker.
Getting close.
Oh shit. But yeah, cool. Well, listen, we are going to do many of these.
Yeah, Mike, thank you. This was,
It's
this
fun.
was like
It's
hanging
relaxing.
out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all I want it to be. I want it to be fun.
We
I
had
want people to
great
hang
flow.
out with us. And,
Yeah, it was a great flow.
I want to do
Everybody
more.
enjoyed
So
it.
our buddy Matt, who also did comedy with us.
Yeah.
We're gonna do Maddie has expressed interest in coming on the show as well. So I'm gonna talk to him about maybe getting him on soon. And then
Yeah,
I would
maybe
like
as
to do
Dr.
one with the three of us.
Sure.
And get us all three
Right.
involved in one, but I do want you to come on several more times because
Whenever you want.
we didn't even scratch the surface.
Could they leave comments like, hey, we hate Johnny T,
Yeah.
have Johnny T on again?
Yeah,
Please, I'm desperate. I know I don't sound desperate. Please ask Mike to have me on again.
I have. No, Johnny T has. I mean, when I say okay, we've probably spent between 500 and 1,000 hours together over the last
Sure,
10
right.
years. And we haven't even scratched the surface of the stories and the
Pulling my dick
mind
out, getting banned for life, and pulling my dick out on stage.
and the mind that is Johnny T. Yeah, I guess you know what. So, I mean, you said it, so I gotta say it.
What's that?
I'm in New Orleans for a wedding. We have a good friend Rob that also did stand up. He's like married, children.
Yeah, great
He
guy, Rob.
Disappeared from.
He should be doing stand-up. He was
But
very
he
talented.
was very funny. But we have. So I actually couldn't go to our mics that week because I was down in New Orleans for a wedding. So I'm getting ready for the dinner the night before the wedding, and I just get out of the shower. I'm putting on a thing, and I get a text on my phone, and it says from Rob. I open it up, and it says Johnny T just pulled his dick out on stage. So
Heyo.
my reply was, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?" And he's like, "Nope." And I'm like, I don't understand. He's like, "Me neither." But
We'll leave you
Now-
with that cliffhanger.
yeah, and we'll tell you the whole story. But one of the things that should be known is that back then at the comic strip, there was a camera that was a live feed onto a monitor that faced the street. So when people would walk by the comic strip, if Adam Sandler's there performing, they could walk by and be like, "There's Adam Sandler." Most of the time they thought it was like a recording from like a different night, but it wasn't actually. It was a live feed. Needless to say, Johnny T
It's Johnny T's dingling.
got himself in a little pinch because, well, A, you're not supposed
Right.
to pull your dick out on stage, and B, there's a live feed to the street, so the whole world could have saw. But he wasn't thinking.
Sorry, Mike. I'm an artist. Like Jim Morrison. It's me and Jim. That's it.
Yeah, we'll save that for the next time because I want to
Yeah.
hear the joke that led to you thinking it was awesome. Listen, guys, thank you for listening.
Yeah, great. Had a great time. Thank you,
And
Mike.
I appreciate, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming. It has been an absolute pleasure. We got to do this, every couple
Whenever you
times a
want.
year, as
Sure.
often as we can, because I absolutely loved it. We'll see if we get some feedback. Please
Well-
pass it around to your friends. if
Yeah, as soon as you get it ready, it's going up
yeah,
all over.
it'll go up, and I will bleep the name.
Yeah, please do that.
yeah, I will do that.
We don't want. I mean, you know what?
Yeah, no problem. We got. I marked it, so we'll know where.
We
it
don't
is.
want it. But Grandpa, did somebody really shit on your face?
So
Sue his
cool.
ass.
All right, man. Well, thank you. We're gonna
Yeah,
cut
thanks,
this off
brother.
here. And you guys, thank you. Make sure you check out the website.
Same bad channel next time.
The1218show.com. Check it out. All the information that you'll ever need about the podcast is on there. Oh, and if you are listening all the way to the end, the last thing I want to say is I'm putting up, I got this idea for a little trivia thread that I'm going to do via the 1218 show. So that should be up here in the next day or two as well. I'm going to put it'll be a different, so on your YouTube channel, you can have different playlists. So I'm going to start a trivia playlist. The first one is going to be on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the movie. So that'll be up in the next couple of days. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you, Johnny T.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And the trivia, I viewed it. Good.
Yeah, it's
Very
gonna be-
well done.
Yeah, we're gonna.
8 minutes of boom, boom, boom. If you're into trivia.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So, cool. All right,
All right, thanks,
let's
guys.
pull this down. Ah.